Welcome to the Parker Daniels Show, where amazing stories are shared and hope is given.
Hi everybody, welcome to the Parker Daniels Show. Today we have a blind recording artist with us. He is coming all the way from, where are you from, sir?
Wilmington, Delaware.
Wilmington, Delaware. Can you tell us a little bit about who you are and your name, and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. My name is Rod Clemmons. I am a native of Pine Bluff, Arkansas. I went to the Arkansas School for the Blind in Little Rock, where I graduated from high school. And then I went to college at Indiana University. Lived in Louisville, Kentucky for a few years right after that, and did some nightclub performing. Then I moved to New York City and lived there for 26 years. That's where I started my independent record label and music production company. And then I moved to Wilmington not quite 5 years ago, which is, I still consider it the New York City area. I'm only about maybe an hour and a half away from New York.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about your eye condition.
Well, I was born with congenital glaucoma, which means, glaucoma is basically a condition in which you have elevated pressure behind the eye where the optic nerve is. And of course, the higher the pressure, the more damage it does to the optic nerve. And the optic nerve is what it's what translates the picture that the eye takes. The eye's like a camera. The optic nerve is the translator, and then the visual vortex of your brain is what tells you what you're seeing. So if the optic nerve is damaged, then the picture that the eye takes is going to be distorted or perhaps non-existent, depending on the condition of the glaucoma. But anyway, so I was born with congenital glaucoma, which is very rare. It is extremely rare. Most people don't develop glaucoma until they're in their late 30s, early 40s. But I was born with it. I was not born totally blind, nor am I totally blind now, although just for the sake of expediency, I do say that because sometimes if I'm talking to a cable TV technician and, they want to ask me stupid questions like, so do you see the red button flashing on the screen?
You're like, no, I sure don't. Okay.
I'm like, well, no, I'm totally blind. Oh, okay. Well, the red button at the bottom of the screen.
Again.
Oh, like, okay, let's try this one more time with feeling, okay? So, but I do have some color perception, light perception, vague object perception. But it is severe enough that I do travel around in unfamiliar territory with a cane. I mean, if I'm at home, I'm good. Or
right.
If I'm in somebody else's home that I know very well, I'm good.
Okay.
But, if I'm going somewhere that is either in public that, the topography could change a bit, or I don't know anything about the place at all, then I'm going to use my cane.
Okay. So what have been some challenges for you growing up as a visually impaired and or blind individual?
Well, I went to the Arkansas School for the Blind, and I would go away to school on a Sunday, stay in a dorm, and come back on a Friday. So most of my friends were at the school. As I was growing up, I really didn't have a lot of friends in my hometown. In fact, I really only had two.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's it. There were a couple other people from the school who also lived in Pine Bluff, so we were friends, but I'm just talking about people who, never went to the School for the Blind.
Right.
I only had maybe two friends like that, and so the rest of the kids in my neighborhood basically didn't want to have much to do with me, because of my visual disability and yada yada yada. But that was kind of the big thing. But then my parents, particularly my mother, never let me sense that. She taught me how to ride a bicycle. I mean, I couldn't ride anywhere but in my neighborhood, but I could ride all around my neighborhood because we lived in a rather nice neighborhood. There were lots of college professors. A car would go by, excuse me, every 5 years, and and they would be driving about 2 miles a millennium. So everybody, and especially when people got the hang of me riding around the neighborhood, then they would be very watchful when they were driving. But my mother taught me how to ride a bike, and she would actually get on my sister's bike and ride right next to me. And she taught me how to roller skate. She would get outside with me and play ball. So she kind of didn't really let me feel the fact that other kids didn't want to have anything to do with me until I got older. And then at that point, I didn't care. So
Right. As we were talking off camera, you were telling me how your parents were very influential in everything that you did. So I wanted to give you an opportunity to kind of share with our audience some of the things they inspired you to do and why you're so grateful to your parents for being the type of parents they were.
Oh, I would not. Oh God, I'm gonna cry. I wouldn't be worth 2 cents without my parents. Both of my parents were amazing people, and I didn't really realize how. I mean, my dad was just wonderful, but I never really understood how incredible of a person he was until after he died. And I remember my wife at the time was reading the program from his funeral. And she was reading it to me, and she's reading the stuff, and I'm going, oh, wait a minute, wait. He did what now? And I'm going, now, I mean, I was alive. Why didn't I know that? I mean, I was very young, but I was so, and I would call my mother and go, Mom, why didn't I know that my father was among the top 10 NCAA basketball coaches? I should have known that.
Right.
And she said, well, because you were very young. You were just starting to go to the school for the blind. So you were like 4, 5, 6.
Right.
And you weren't home that much. You were only home on the weekends. So rather, he basically, when you came home, we focused on you. We didn't focus on anything else but you. So, and he just wasn't a braggadocious person anyway. I'm like, well, yeah, but my God, NCAA, you're talking an African-American basketball coach in an historical Black college in the 1960s in the South? Come on, that's
exactly that.
That's like name. Thomas Edison.
Right.
But so he was just an incredible man, but he was also just stupid humble. I mean, just did not, he'd go do his work and then come home, and he was a family man. He wasn't much for a lot of words, but you didn't need a lot of words either. He took very good care of all of us. All 4 of us have excellent educations, and both of my parents are educators. I come from a long family history of educators, parents, grandparents on both sides. My sister is an educator, and but my mother's side is where the music is, and so she was so supportive of music. In fact, I would not have this album that I have if it weren't for her. Because she's the one that called me and said, listen, how much money do you need to finish this? What is it going to take? What do you have to do? Blah, blah, blah. And she just sort of threw me a wad of bills and said, go.
So let's talk a little bit about your music. What
Okay.
got you interested in being a musician?
Well, when I was about 3 years old, little toddlers, they see a piano keyboard or they see anything for that matter, and they want to touch it and beat on it and whatever. And when a toddler touches a piano keyboard and realizes that it makes a sound, then, toddlers are going to become very interested in that. So um, I would do the distance from one key to another key makes a very pretty sound, no matter what combination you do, versus the white keys that are very close together, and so they tend to clash. And so I would always gravitate toward the black keys, and that's when my mother said, you know what, I think he might be a musician. So that's when she started taking me to a university teacher at the ripe old age of 3, and I started studying